Welcome to In Search for Wellness. Eden's Cellular Wellness Solution is presenting to you a story on carbohydrates. I have prepared a story about concerning our carbohydrates as food and how we can interact with the carbohydrates and develop a healthy carbohydrate culture. We have heard that in Kenya and also in Africa, carbohydrates form a very big portion of our diet. A lot of carbohydrates per year in tonnage or in kilogram is consumed in a country or even in individual families. And so we end up per year consuming a lot of carbohydrates, which is a very important constituent of our diet. We cannot say because carbohydrates makes me put on weight, I am not going to eat carbohydrates anymore. Carbohydrates is very important and needed in the cells for energy and also for growth. This slide presents an example of wholesome carbohydrates. Some carbohydrates that are consumed all over the world, and others are consumed regionally as they manifest or as they are produced by the plants for us in a wholesome state. And carbohydrates which are very good and provide good starches for our daily consumption. Here we have arrowroots. Arrowroots, as they are called, roots that grow deep in the soil. And the whole plant has to be uprooted to harvest an arrowroot. The starch in arrowroot is very, very, very good. It is very good because it is not broken down very easily. It is not digested quickly. It is not broken down quickly into glucose to shoot the blood sugar. And consumption of arrowroot as a starch source is good because it presents good sustenance of glucose in the blood. These are whole maize. Maize is greatly used in Africa and many other parts of the world for starches. Maize in his wholesome state and refined is also very good carbohydrate source because it provides, as a grain, it provides oils, it provides vitamins, it provides proteins, and it also has complex carbohydrates that break down very slowly. This is rice, consumed greatly in the world as a refined rice, but in essence, it's best to consume it unrefined. Potatoes, Irish potatoes are known. These are a type of legume. Legumes also provide starches, but they are greatly known for their protein content. Bananas are loved greatly all over the world in their ripe bananas because they provide glucose for immediate energy when they are ripened. But in other parts of the world, like in Kenya, we also bananas are used in their green states, green bananas. They are used as starch sources. Corn is used as a vegetable in very many parts of the world, but we know that corn also provides starches. It also provides wholesome starch. And corn, like in popcorn, it is popcorn is a very healthy snack. So here, this diagram, it shows us that it is telling us it's good to know our wholesome carbohydrates that support wellness. It is in fact very good to know how to choose our wholesome carbohydrates which will support wellness. In a modern life system where most of our starches is coming, we get most of our starches from the supermarket and most times in the refined states. It is important to know our wholesome carbohydrates so that we can be able to make the correct selection. Welcome into this section. As we continue looking at the story of carbohydrates in relationship to our wellness. In this section, we are going to look at why are carbohydrates important? Why are carbohydrates important? Carbohydrates are consumed in relatively high amounts compared to other nutrients. The other nutrients which are consumed together with carbohydrates are proteins, fats and oils, vitamins, minerals. We also require another special kind of plant chemicals called phytochemicals. And vitamins, minerals, and phytochemicals, they are required in very small amounts. Carbohydrates are required in relatively larger amounts as compared to proteins and fats. Carbohydrates are used in cells to supply energy. We see that the process of introducing carbohydrates or starches into our body cells is through eating. Through eating. It is not through blood transfusion. Only that only happens when one is very sick and one can't feed on their own. So by eating our food and swallowing into our gut system for it to be broken down, the carbohydrates are broken down into their smallest units called simple sugars. For example, the most in broad greater amount is glucose. And glucose inside the body cells is used to make energy. We have various sources of energy in this country this day. These days we have got gardens which are providing energy, converting wind into electrical energy. We know of geothermal energy converted to electrical energy. We know of water, energy of water movement, violent energy of water movement converted into electrical energy. And through electrical energy, there is a lot of work that is achieved in every country and in every family. Without electrical energy, it would be very difficult to operate our electrical systems, our modern electrical systems, and our modern lifestyle as we know it would be greatly affected. So the cells generate energy in a small organ-like structure in the cell called a mitochondria. Within the mitochondria in the cells, glucose is converted into energy that can be used by the muscles, that can be used by the brain, that can be used for other reactions, that can be used by the nerves, that can be used by every part of the body. So we are saying it is like a fuel in a vehicle. A vehicle that whose fuel is finished in the tank can no longer move. It just stalls and stops. A kerosene lamp uses kerosene to light the house. Many families in this country still use kerosene to light the lamps and to light their environment. So without kerosene, we cannot make a flame. We cannot light, we cannot create and generate light. Also within this region, we use a lot of firewood. A lot of firewood is used in the upcountry for cooking. And without firewood, there is no food that can be cooked. So firewood, through the burning process, releasing the energy that cooks the food. So carbohydrates in the form of glucose in our cells goes through a special reaction process and releases its energy to an easily available energy for ourselves, for our muscles, for our limbs, for everything. And we know that the body requirement, an individual requirement for energy per day is quite big. Because if you have, for example, when people have to walk all the way from home to the workplace, and then in the evening, spend the whole day working, moving up and down, and again go back, a lot of energy is required. And what one ate last night may not be available for a person to work hard throughout the day. However, when people go through a fasting process, usually the body cells will use the starches that are preserved in the form of glycogen to provide energy at that particular time. Energy is needed for all movements. Energy is needed for mental activity. It is needed for physiological work. It's needed for physiological work, for the nerves to transmit the messages, for the blood to transport the nutrients, for the blood to fight, to set the antibodies to fight the disease, infections and injuries. And it is also used for all chemical work in the cells. Carbohydrates are also combined with other molecules for structural function. For example, this is an example. This structure here looks like a mattress. It looks like a mattress that has been split into two. But this is just a graphic model. This is a graphic model of the structure of the cell wall. We said that the body has got over 100 trillion cells, and every cell is enclosed by a cell wall. A cell is a space within which is enclosed some water fluids with other substances and other structures inside. And so this is a magnification, or let's say this is a graphic representation of a cell. Because a cell is made up of the inside part of the cell wall is all fat. The cell wall is made up of fat, but then it has got other structures on the outside which look like antennae on the outside. This is the outside part of the cell wall. This is the inside part of the cell wall. So on the inside part, on the outside part, the cell wall has got structures that look like antennae. Structures that sense other strangers when they are coming, when wrong strangers are coming, and when the correct strangers are coming. These antennae are able to identify this. And these antennae, most of the times, are carbohydrate structures. So that's why we are saying that Carbohydrates are also used in structural function, e.g. in cell walls. They are also used for storing energy in the liver and muscles as glycogen, which is a soluble starch. So when we eat our food in carbohydrates, you see when it is digested and glucose or fructose is released into the blood, insulin is sent by the pancreas to remove the excess glucose from the blood and to leave it within a certain range. And the excess glucose is converted into glycogen in the liver and in the muscles. So glycogen is a form for storage of our glucose that we have just eaten. Otherwise, in presence of insulin, the excess glucose is also converted to fats. That is why you find that when a person is locked up by a carbohydrate indulgence of eating a lot of starch as an indulgence, most of the times you find that people put on weight. People don't put on weight because of eating fat. People put on weight because of eating excess carbohydrates that are converted into fat by the insulin hormone. Remember, we are looking into the story of carbohydrates as it interacts with our body as our food for our cells and for wellness. We have spoken somewhere about solar energy, which is needed to make carbohydrates through photosynthesis. We have mentioned that. So, what we may say, when carbohydrates provide energy for us, we can say it is actually this energy comes from the sun. It is mainly solar energy. That it is bound together in the carbohydrates through the chemical bonds. That is where the solar energy is translated into chemical energy. And when digestion takes place and the cells receive the glucose, they then break down the glucose and use that energy. So that is released as chemical energy. The solar energy is released as chemical energy in the cells when glucose, fats, proteins are broken down. So fats can also be used to supply energy, and the proteins can also be used to supply energy to the cells. When someone has not been able to find food for a long time, we find that their muscles become emaciated, which means the proteins of the muscle is now being broken down. The protein of the muscle is being broken down by the cells to provide energy. The cells must get energy from somewhere. We know that in absence of glucose, fats can also be converted. Fats can also be converted into energy by breaking them down. And that's why you find that people, when they want to lose weight, you find that people cut on their carbohydrates and they go on vegetable diet. When you go on vegetable diet and supply less carbohydrates, most of the times the body will use the deposited, the stored fats and also the proteins for energy purposes. They break down the fats and the proteins to provide energy for the cells. Carbohydrates are also used for building important and large muscles. And large molecules, I'm sorry, not muscles, large molecules. Carbohydrates are very important in the diet. You can see that they are also used to make important large molecules. These are called macromolecules. Large molecules like DNA DNA is a very important molecule, and it is a very large molecule. The other one is this one we are calling ATP. This is the one that stores the energy. It is the one which is involved in the making of energy and storing energy. It's a capacitor. It's a capacitor of storing energy. This RNA, there is a transfer RNA and a messenger RNA. And this RNA is used to copy the data of proteins from the DNA. So when a new molecule of protein is going to be made, or new muscle, or repair and maintenance for healing, not the DNA which is hidden in the nucleus is used, but another molecule, a replica, an imitation of the DNA is made to go and copy this information. And this one now, the RNA, is the one which is used to make the proteins. You can see carbohydrates are very, very, very important for the diet. Although the carbohydrates today are the great victims because of many problems that we face in our health, in our bodies. Carbohydrates, when they have been well used, moderately used, and when they have been used in the correct type, wholesome type, carbohydrates are very, very, very critical for life. And we find that if you are to cut down completely carbohydrates, you find that with time you lose weight, but as you continue slowly, you find that the whole body starts deteriorating, breaking down slowly by slowly, and one may even die in the long run if one is not able to supply the correct amounts of carbohydrates. We are still going on with the story of the carbohydrates, which is the story of our food. We have seen that in this part of the world, in Africa and in our country, that carbohydrate plays a very, very important role towards our wellness. And we can no longer ignore our carbohydrates. And here I'm saying thank you very much for your participation. Thank you for your participation in the story of our carbohydrates as it influences wellness in our bodies. This story may help us enter into a place of carbohydrate metabolism that leads to wellness. I trust that this section has been helpful. Developing a healthy carbohydrate culture is an important step in one's journey to wellness. I wish you all the best in your journey to wellness. This story has been created by Eden's Cellular Wellness Solutions.